Hello friends, more fun and games. Epstein Files is a mind load. This week it was Norway's turn. Norwegian diplomat, remember the foul Oslo Accords, Rod Larsen, used the think tank International Peace Institute to traffic women at Epstein's request. Young, beautiful women without the proper skills came for short internships and had their pictures sent to Epstein. At the same time, his boss, former Norwegian Prime Minister Børge Brende, resigned as CEO of the World Economic Forum in disgrace. In 2018, Epstein emailed Brende arguing that Davos could really replace the UN. And Brende responded, "Exactly. We need a new global architecture." Wow. Replace the UN with the hardcore pedophile global elite. Rod Larsen and Brenda represent this new global elite that uses nationality as a colorful stepping stone out of nationality. Diplos are cherry-picked by the elite to represent the traditional political order. Some Norwegians still believe in honor. Another former Norwegian PM, Thorbjørn Jagland, attempted suicide after his ties to Epstein came to light. Good for you, Thorbjørn. Next on our list, lawfare. The EU and especially the German thought police made 6 citizens non-persons last week. 3 Germans, a Frenchman, and 2 Swiss. Well, the Swiss aren't in the EU, but they're along for the ride. Especially poignant was a German activist, journalist, Dolguru, who, when interviewed with Electronic Intifada, had to say, "As of now, I have zero access to any money. I can't provide food for my family, including 2 newborns, due to EU sanctions." Dolguru is challenging the sanctions in EU courts, a lengthy and expensive process that could take years. He could starve to death by then, offering him and his family no immediate relief. Amputees from Palestine, football players training in Gaza Strip. 6,000 amputations were recorded during 2 years of the Israeli offensive. Next, Indonesia, Morocco, Albania, Kazakhstan, and Kosovo have pledged to send troops to Trump's International Stabilization Force in Gaza. Indonesia, which is preparing 8,000 troops, will be deputy commander of the force. Egypt and Jordan pledged to train a Palestinian police force. Trump has pledged $10 billion, which critics say could be a slush fund since he'll be the one controlling it. Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Morocco, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, the EU, and Uzbekistan are collectively contributing $7 billion. Putin offered $1 billion of funds that the EU and US seized over Ukraine. Canadian hockey legend and dual Canadian-US citizen Wayne Gretzky is a traitor. When he appeared last year as honorary coach of Canada's team in the Four Nations competition, he came from the US bench, thumbs up to the Americans, and wearing a suit, not the requisite maple leaf. He's buddy-buddy with name-dropping Trump. Gretzky has always been a right-wing jerk, a big fan of our nightmare Prime Minister Stephen Harper, a Trumpian before Trump. Kuter Ben-Harnina left her award for Most Valuable Film at the Cinema for Peace Festival in Berlin for her film Voice of Hindrajab on the stage, refusing to accept it. Peace is not a perfume spread over violence, so power can feel refined and comfortable. Hollywood stars such as Tilda Swinton and Xavier Bardem, director Mike Leigh signed an open letter criticizing the Berlin Film Festival taking place at the same time for its complicity in genocide. When peace is pursued as a legal and moral obligation rooted in accountability for genocide, then I will come back and accept my award with joy, said Ben Hania at her festival. Back at the Berlin Festival, Israeli filmmakers invited to Berlin wrote their own letter praising the festival's tolerance and openness. Back to Epstein. The last time a senior British royal was arrested was during the English Civil War, when Charles I was captured and later executed. That was in 1646, 380 years ago, 4 centuries. Thankfully for Andrew, arrested on his 66th birthday, he was not executed, but merely held for 11 hours without being charged or exonerated. It's almost as though it was a PR stunt. Lord Peter Mandelson, mastermind of the drawing and quartering of Jeremy Corbyn, was also arrested. It looks like the royals and their lackeys are increasingly dysfunctional and expendable. And who gets top billing in Epstein? At 12,000 hits, Peter Thiel gets Trump's Nobel Olympic gold medal. When I reviewed Jeremy Kuzmarov's book about Obama, see in the description, I didn't mention his explosive appendix about Obama's secret gay life. I didn't believe it, but the whistleblower, pun intended, has been on Tucker Carlson's podcast twice in 10 years. And there's a credible rumor, Epstein files, that Trump and Clinton had a fling, which means that such orgies were and are de rigueur for our global elite. This elite uses homosexuality as a kind of extra spice. That's exactly what Thomas Aquinas said about homosexuality 8-9 centuries ago. From excess, sexualizing everything, i.e. decadence. As a footnote, interesting that the sort of black Obama was never invited to Epstein's orgies. I wonder why. Finally, or almost finally, Tucker Carlson's interview with the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Huckabee, who was enthusing that all the Arabs' lands belong to Israel. The Bible told him so. And all non-Jewish lives are expendable. You can find proof in Joshua. Next, we have Trump's State of the Union. It was notable as the longest in history and the shortest on content. Trump claimed he has produced a miracle and that everyone loves him. In fact, the US dollar has devalued more than any time since it was unhinged by Nixon in 1973. Trump's beautiful tariffs sent Canadian Prime Minister to China to sign a deal to export oil not to the US but to China. The tariffs also prompted Brazil to lead the Mercosur bloc to sign a trade agreement with the EU. China is already their biggest trade partner. The devaluation and tariffs, now frozen and facing thousands of lawsuits, have increased inflation, even as no real jobs have been created. That and Trump's unhinged US-Israeli imperialism, their war on Iran, puts them on the road to annihilation. Sadly, they intend to take us with them. Next, we have Britain's Green Party. It pushed Labour into third place behind Reform in Greater Manchester. Candidate Hannah Spencer said she was simply a plumber and never dreamed of political work, but after she saw the living conditions of British families deteriorating while the rich got even richer, she was compelled. The British Greens are also the voice of Palestine in Parliament. Spencer won 40%. Reform and Labour shared the rest equally. Hapless Labour congratulated Hannah for beating the alt-right. Watch out, Starmer. Finally, Jeremy Corbyn invites us to meet in Havana, March 21st. The Nuestra America convoy to Cuba has initially been a sea-bound mission, but then reportedly grew into a coordinated convoy by air, land, and sea because of an inundation, pun intended, of requests to support the critical mission. And along with that, we all know that the underdog merely has to stay alive to win. So congratulations, Palestinians, and so far Cubans, and let's add Iran to that. We have three of our anti-imperial heroes. Their heads are on the block this week, so your prayers and thoughts with them, please. Bye-bye.